longer. But while we do that, let's send you all the way down south to South Africa and say hello to Steve.
Good afternoon and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Falconbridge and I have got Seb on camera, and we have managed to come across the lovely spotted hyena. We are here at Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands, and the hyena, we're not sure exactly, but they have got some bones. We're thinking they possibly stole it or took it from the lions, that zebra carcass, and they've actually brought it down to the pan. The one in the water is actually washing it for some very strange reason. He has got the bones in the water, has just submerged it, and I don't know what it's doing. It took what looked like a hip or a pelvic girdle into the water, and it is gone now. Not great for the cleanliness of the water, I'll tell you what. But these hyena, there's a few of them. There's at least 5 in the area, and they've all got little bits and pieces of bones left over, potentially the ones the lions were not able to break open. And there the hyena, not a threat to the white-back vulture. There in front of it is the the hooded vulture. They're not too bothered by hyenas. They wouldn't get too close to lions or leopards, that's for sure. Wonderful specimen there, is it not? Aren't you pretty? I think only its mother can tell it that. Quite a sharp, narrow beak. The hooded vultures are generally the first vultures you find near a carcass or near a dead animal, and they are, to me, the most reliable vulture species. If you are looking for vultures, you're looking for a kill, look for them and they will tell you exactly where they are. It is a lovely afternoon. There is a nice breeze coming in from the east. The hyenas were swimming just before, at least one of them was. Yes, Lily, who find hyenas interesting. They are extremely interesting, and please, folks, on that note, hashtag Safari Live for your comments and questions. Follow us on the YouTube stream. Send through anything you have. This is marvelous behavior we have here. The hyenas have waited for almost 3 days for the remains of this carcass, and they are now making good use of it. Isn't that a wonderful picture? Can you imagine 3-day-old zebra that's been sitting in the sun and half chewed by lions? Fantastic. A little bit of vocalizing from the one going off on my right here. Very gentle. This one just here, Seb. Just making a typical low little moaning sound. The hyena it's walking towards is actually looked like, when we drove past, it looked like it was feeding on the zebra's head itself. It's going there. We're going to stay here with these individuals and see what fantastic stuff comes about. Scott has been busy today with the remodeling of Ronald the Rover Mach 2, and so we're going to be deploying him shortly. But while we do so, Scott is also out and mobile this afternoon, and let's go over to him to say hello.
Hello everybody, welcome on board with myself and VM on camera. I thought it would make sense for us to go and check in on the third and final predator that's been involved in the kind of saga over the last 24 hours involving that zebra that those hyena are gnawing on and that the vultures are eagerly awaiting any scraps thereof. So I thought, let's just head back to where the kill was. Clearly the hyenas managed to get some of it, but maybe the lions came charging back in and managed to secure whatever remained of the carcass. Time will tell. It's just a few 20 seconds or so up ahead under one of these shady bushes. So that's our plan. We're going to head across there, and if we don't find the lions there, I guess we'll try and track them down, work out a plan with Steve to best try and establish where they've gone. Now, doesn't look promising at the outset. Can't see any lions underneath this tree, and it's just underneath this shady tree over here where the carcass was this morning. And it looks like everything has been taken. Not even a scrap of a zebra left in there. That's where the carcass was. Isn't it fascinating how where there was so many bones and so much hide and blood and guts, when you look there now it looks like nothing really happened. Wonderful. So we're going to try and work out where the lions are gone. If we don't have any luck with them, hopefully we'll be able to find Tundi and her cub, a leopardess, a bit later on. But for now, we are going to be sending you back to Brenton, Kenya.
Well, thank you to the bearded wonder, Scott Dyson. Hopefully Scotty has a bit more luck than I've had this afternoon. We've checked the normal spots for the musketeer boys, the lions, not the cheetahs, of course. And unfortunately no luck. But the one thing I have been finding a lot of over the last week or so is secretary bird nests. And there's another very prominent nest over here. So I got asked a few days ago why we aren't seeing secretary birds as much. And that's because they're busy feeding babies and stuff, so they're spending more time closer to their nesting areas. And I think I now know of about 14 different secretary bird nests in the Mara Triangle alone. So there we go. If you look carefully, it looks like there's a baby just below moving, just to the left of the adult standing up. There we go, you can just see the movement. Now I don't want to get too close because we don't want to disturb them while they're on the nest, but that's why we're not seeing secretary birds walking around as much at the moment. It is because they are currently nesting. So as I say, I've counted 14 different nests in the Mara Triangle alone, and there are 5 actually from here to the end of the triangle around Olololo Gate, and there are a lot down towards the Tanzanian border. So quite exciting, and I've been keeping a check on them. And this one, the last time I was here, there was no sign of a baby, so that means they must have hatched in the last couple of days. So very exciting, and it's going to be wonderful to see juvenile secretary birds wandering about. Now, I'm on a mission to see baby birds this year, and I've been so lucky since I've been back from leave. We had tiny crown crane chicks, we've had medium crown crane chicks, but for me the best sighting was of those tiny cory-busted chicks while Mom was stamping on insects and feeding them as she walked through. Oh, we've got some proper grumpy East African buffalo giving us that look. What are you looking at? See all the mud on their horns? Now, with the topi will often put mud on their horns to make themselves look more impressive during the rut. Now, if you look carefully where the mud on that buffalo's horns are, on the bottom side of the arch there, it means he's been lying on his side with his head resting in the mud. He hasn't been beautifying himself. He's been using the mud to keep the insects at bay and to keep cool. We're not that disturbing because he's still trying to finish his mouthful of grass. Now, I'd say the reason they're suddenly a little bit more jumpy than normal is because a strong wind has just picked up. And I wonder if they can smell lions somewhere in the swampy area, which I'm not going to risk, because going into that area at this time of the year is almost guaranteed Marshmallow Club territory. Here we go, off you go, buffalo. You can see we're quite lucky today. It seems the big storms are falling around double crossing Talek on the other side of the river, and for once it looks like we might not got wet this afternoon. But while I head towards the last, charging Impala, stop quickly. He's obviously just charging after his ladies, not at us. But as we carry on, we're going to go across to Ralph, see what he's up to. We're going to head towards the Angama Olololo Pride to see if they're on the hunt.
Thanks, Brent. And well, everybody, we must never forget that impala, as much as we see a lot of them, they are still wonderful animals and very successful because of their different survival tactics. One of them being that if they are approached by predators, they will bombshell. So that term used for everybody going in a different direction, making it quite difficult for the predator to pick one out in particular. And so then that is the theory also behind the metatarsal gland, which is that very black marking on their back legs, right down near to the hooves. And it is very particular of impala, right down at the bottom. Those very black dots there, that's it is black hair, but it also surrounds their metatarsal gland. And when they bombshell, you'll see them, impala do what is called stotting, where they jump from their front legs onto their back legs, a little bit different to what springbok do, which is called pronking. But when they bombshell, you'll see that they kick out their back legs very clearly. And the theory is that they flexing that gland on the back legs, and then it does leave a bit of a scent trail for the others to be able to follow. So that is quite particular. They also do practice allo grooming, where they'll groom each other and help rid themselves of parasites. One of the other angles is also that they, and especially not here in the Maasai Mara, I hear, that they drop their young at the same time. But here in the Maasai Mara, it seems like the impala drop almost year-round, and it's not all synchronized like it is in the Djuma area. Mary, thank you for your comment, saying that such pretty colours, you love them. Well, I do too. And look there in the background, there's a warthog just grazing in amongst them as well, with, I believe, a hamakop. Oh, there's a pair of hamakops. And there's a young little male impala in the foreground, and you see how the warthog go on their hocks and lean down like it makes for much easier grazing. But look how the hamakops are also in between them. So this we would call an aggregation, lots of different species of animals, normally coming together so that they've got more eyes and ears, and evasion of predators is obviously a very high priority. And a lot of animals actually try to hang around impala because they are so alert, very good hearing, very good eyesight, and very good smell. And they're normally in quite large numbers, so there's lots of eyes and ears and noses to be able to pick up predators. And so the other animals, such as warthogs, can carry on grazing quite happily with the impala keeping the lookout for them. And you often find baboons doing exactly that, and they've formed quite a nice relationship between impala and baboons, because the baboons very often up in the trees, or at least one or two of them, and the impala on the ground. So quite a formidable combination in terms of evasion of predators, except when there is a very lack of resources. Then you do find that every now and then a baboon will take a little baby impala and eat it, and so that's when they could be a little bit of enemies, but generally they work together. So talking about predators and prey, we're going to send you all the way back down south once again to South Africa, but it seems that they've got their little gremlins showing up there, so we're not going to go anywhere just yet. I think we're going to just stay looking at these guys, and we do have some waterbuck also that are just relaxing, as their namesake suggests, just next to the water. But like I've mentioned before, that male's got quite a lovely set of horns on him as well. I have mentioned before that waterbuck, yes, it is quite a good name for them because they are regularly associated with water, but the two species that are more so, would be better for them to be called waterbuck, would be lechwe or sitatunga, because you find them grazing inside the water a lot more than waterbuck. So a little bit of a mix-up of the names, I would say, but they are wonderful animals. All right, it seems like the gremlins down south have been chased away, and we were speaking of predators and prey, and Steve down in South Africa has got some hyena.
And yes, folks, we are back with the hyena. We've been trying to get Ronald to do his part, and he got right in there, and the hyenas aren't too bothered. We just had a bit of a smudge on the screen we've had to take care of. But there they are. Dog to me, not that they are dogs, but have you ever seen an animal drink like that before? That is quite strange. I must admit, that's the first time I've seen a hyena drink. I've seen them sitting in water. We haven't seen the pelvic bone that one buried out in the water come up yet. I wonder what's going on with that. Maybe he dropped it in there and can't see it again. Uh-oh. The lovely cackle of the hyena. Senak asks if hyenas will bury their food from vultures. I've never heard of it. I know that they basically spend their time feeding on it, and once it's done, they walk away. They might often leave some bones behind, but once they've broken in and gotten the good marrow out and all the goodness, they often leave bones where they left them. That one looks like it might be searching for its long-lost pelvic girdle. I'm not quite sure. It's hard to tell which one of these actually was in the water before. There we go. Look what I found. No idea why it would have done that. Maybe it wanted to clean off some parasites. Maybe there was some maggots on the form in there. Quite clever behavior if that's the case. And he's buried it in the water again. Absolutely bizarre. And how it found it again, it must have smelt it. Okay, folks, well, we're going to stay with these hyena for a while longer and see what they get up to. And in the meantime, we're going to be going up to Mr. Brent Leo Smith up in the Mara, who's just bumbling along.
Safari yet, because it's not wild dogs we're after. We're heading for lions, so there's generally no need to rush, because they are lions of leisure. But apologies, it seems like we are having some technical difficulties this afternoon. Remember, we are coming to you live from two of the most iconic African locations, the Greater Kruger National Park and the Maasai Mara in Kenya and South Africa respectively. So bear with us while we try to sort those problems out. Okay. So I'm going to take quite a different route. Last time I came down along the river, I'm going to take the shortcut. Diana, says I was chatting about extinct antelope and are oryx extinct in the wild? No, not at all. There are many different types of oryx. So the gemsbok, which occurs in the arid areas of southern Africa, Botswana, South Africa, eastern Zimbabwe, into Namibia and southern Angola, are very, very happy and not nearly extinct. The Bisa oryx, which occurs from the Maasai steppe in Tanzania, up through the arid areas of Kenya into Somalia and the bottom end of Ethiopia, also no problem whatever. I think you might be talking about an addax. An addax is a desert antelope that is almost extinct in the wild. The only safe populations of addax are in captivity. And there is also, I'm trying to remember its name now, I've gone completely blank, another oryx species which is highly, highly threatened from the desert areas. But the most endangered antelope in Africa all belong to the desert species that live in the Sahara. I think, what is it called? It's a gazelle. Is it Sumering's gazelle? I think is possibly one of the most endangered antelope species in the world. And they have been overhunted over many years, and they are a desert species that need a massive area due to the lack of food in the desert and water, and they're moving. I think it's Sumering's gazelle. I might be wrong. Whoa! Someone not checking their rearview mirrors. I don't have any, so I have an excuse. Oh, it sounds like the bearded wonder. Scott Dyson has found something that is big and smelly and feline.
Bearded wonder. Thanks, Brent. That's an interesting one. Haven't been called that before by him. And we've managed to find the lions. Awesome, awesome stuff. But interestingly, Amber Eyes is missing. So it's just the mother and the little cub. And the mother's now just let out a vocalization. Ooh, ooh. Trying to find out where this other lioness has gone, obviously. So who knows why they would have split up. They have had a few of their own internal issues over the last kind of 48 hours that we've been viewing them. A little bit of fighting and snarling over the kill. Who knows, possibly during a hyena skirmish, if those hyenas came in and overthrew the lions, then what may have happened is this lioness may have done a runner with the cub and made sure she got her cub into a safe spot and didn't really worry too much about where Amber Eyes went. She wouldn't have been in the same kind of predicaments as this lioness and her cub. Let's just keep moving and try and catch up with them. We should be able to get ahead of them and hopefully have them walking back to us. Good stuff. Now, what's going to be wonderful is if they do actually manage to find this other lioness, which they should with relative ease. Maybe they've already heard her calls and are heading towards her. Now, this is interesting, and thanks for those of you who sent back through feedback regarding the dam cam, and you just saw Amber Eyes feed there all on her own, well, not feed, have a drink there, all on her own. Let's just stop here. It looks like they've changed direction, so we should be able to get some good views. Clearly I'm having trouble adjusting to Rusty, this vehicle that I'm in. I've been on Jigger since I've been back, and they all kind of operate slightly differently. Okay, so, I mean, I guess the fact that Amber Eyes headed to the waterhole for a drink, it looks like these guys may have had a drink at a small little puddle behind us. We're on Ingwe Alley here, and we had their tracks coming down kind of south, away from the kill, as opposed to east, where Amber Eyes would have headed in order to get to the Vulture Dam, where you guys saw it on the dam cam. And on the trajectory that they're heading on now, it's kind of back towards the Vulture Dam. So I think they will be able to reunite without too much difficulty. So interesting to have lions on the move at this time of the day. It's the last thing I would have predicted. And I guess there's always a lesson. It's a lesson we often get reminded of out here, is that we can only try and predict what these animals are going to get up to, but they very often prove us wrong. Okay, here's a nice little open section. We'll be able to race ahead, and then I'll let VM work his magic as they continue towards us. Tom, you've noticed that the cub's looking much better after it's had a meal, and I agree with you. It's amazing how with just a little bit of extra food and nutrition, their condition and health alters greatly. And who knows when last this cub did have a decent meal. A lot of the time it'll have a lot of competition with the rest of the pride. There's about, I think, 10 other cubs that it'll be competing with when it is with the rest of the pride. So it is probably at the bottom of the Nkuhuma food chain. And now we're going to hopefully get some great views as they continue on towards us in this golden afternoon sun. So even the lions have a trick here. It's very often to just kind of forget that even though they are the apex predator out here, they too have their issues, and you know, just the fact that this cub isn't looking as healthy as it could be is testament to that. How lucky are we? They're coming straight past us. I'm going to be very interested to see how long they move for, because it's incredibly hot. They're full-bellied and probably fairly uncomfortable after feeding on a zebra for the last 48 hours or so. Oh, wonderful. It looks like we're going to have to reposition again. Great. Well, as we get you guys into hopefully another good spot to see them, we are going to send you back to Steve, who's still with the hyena.
Hello, hello. Spots indeed, Scott. We have got a hyena right by Ronald. He's very interested with his wet muzzle. We don't want him to bite it, so I just have to move him slightly, because one little bite will hurt. One little bite will hurt. We're right down by the... Ooh, the hyena is coming right up to Ronald. What is he doing? There he goes. They're having a swim, folks. This is what we'd all like to be doing this time of day. And they are playing with their food as well. I've never seen this behavior before. I wonder if Scotty's seen this before. It'd be interesting to note, because it's been in the water, hasn't been feeding on that bone, it's just been chewing, or I mean swimming with it and dumping it in the water. So I'm not quite sure exactly what is going on, but he's definitely not sharing it with a comrade. And there they go. So Scott reckons Amber Eyes was down here by the water earlier. These hyenas have been very skittish. Any sort of sound or movement and they get up and run away, and that's been happening repeatedly since we've been here. So it probably was Amber Eyes here earlier, and what I saw yesterday is they were very, very worried about her, and she did not give an inch on them. So you can see on the camera there, those hyenas there with their bones. And there's hyena to the left further back there, Seb. I don't know. It's busy eyeing out some impala in the distance, but the impala are looking straight at the hyena. Scarlett asks, do we see hyenas often? I don't see them very often, but every single night they come either into our camp or past our camp, depending on whether we've closed the fences. But yes, we have the tracks every single day on pretty much every road we traverse. So these are very mobile animals. They cover probably the entire Sabi Sands or their territories every single night repeatedly. And yeah, I don't see them very often, but obviously the last 2.5 days we've seen them almost constantly as they hang around waiting for the scraps at the lion's dinner table. And all we saw them here with was some bones, a head, and a zebra leg, which was just a hoof and some skin. So I don't think they did very well out of that. But we do see them quite regularly on the dam cam. And, well, I don't, because I'm not always watching. But the hyenas are mobile all the time. And we have tracks coming in and out of our camp, definitely past the fence every single morning. The characteristic weird step that the hyena has. We're always seeing it when we're looking for our leopard or lion tracks. And just like that, they're all out of the swimming pool. Lovely breeze has just picked up again. So only seen 5 individuals. Last night we came out after we closed the show, and I think we counted 7 hyena with close to the lions, but they didn't do too much. They just sat there and they waited. Nothing like what we see on a lot of the documentaries of hyenas getting all aggressive and moving and chasing lions away. Matt asks a very good question. Would the hyena be keeping food away as a higher ranking hyena? Definitely. There's definitely a hierarchy in hyena dynamics. There's the alpha female or the matriarch, and she does most of the feeding, and only when she's satisfied will she allow those below her to feed. And the males, unfortunately, are always the last. Even her daughter will feed before any other male in the group. So there's definitely a bit of dynamic, but we haven't seen too much of it here. There was a bit of a squabble before over the zebra leg bone, but there was not too much in it. There's not too much to go around, but they will get some nourishment out of the bone marrow. So while we sit here and watch these hyenas and see what it is that they get up to, we are going to go back to Scott, who I believe is relocated on the Unkuhuma with her little cub.
So it looks like they have decided to take a little bit of a breather here. The cub has just repositioned behind the log, so maybe we should reposition too. It was interestingly attempting to suckle. There you can just see its little paws. So let's reposition quickly. Yeah, it was taking a little bit of a suckle earlier on. And let's see if this isn't going to work for you. I'm worried that VM's camera might be a little bit too high. I guess that's as good as it's going to get for the time being. Not the best views, but hopefully they're going to continue to move around. So that is a likely scenario, that they're just going to catch their breath and then continue searching for their missing pride member. We've got no idea where the rest of the pride is, or at least I don't. I was off this morning. I'm not sure if the others who were out copied any updates. Look at how ferociously that little cub is panting with its little pot belly. And I can sympathize with them because it is extremely hot afternoon, even though there's quite a breeze blowing, and we fortunately don't have a fur coat to deal with, but they do.
Oh, I don't know what happened there, everybody. Sorry about that. The gremlins strike again. But we're on the hunt for those lions that we saw yesterday and that I also spotted this morning with the little cubbies. Now, we're in that same area, but since this morning they could have moved off a little bit into the shade, or they could have moved quite far, but we'll still comb the area. It's rather difficult looking in this long grass, but nonetheless we will still keep looking. Just off behind us on the other side of the Mara River, it looks like a storm coming our way once again. So once we get to a position where we can turn around and have a look, I will do so. But I think this evening might be a little bit wet again. Now, Ravinda, you want to know if there are any meerkats in the reserve? Ravinda, I think the other day I did see some proper meerkats, or the surrogates as they're called, but generally I think they are more, so in other words, there's not a lot of them, because if there are, because I'm sure I did see some the other day, but I might be mixing it up with the million other days of times I've been in the bush, and I might have mixed things up. But generally they occur in bigger numbers in a lot drier areas. So the desert conditions they are very happy with, and in the Kalahari and the Southern African sub-region, there's a lot of them there. But I do have a feeling that I saw some the other day on the other side of the river. So I'm pretty sure that there are some here, Ravinda, but not a lot. I think I see some lions up front, everybody. Yes, I do. There they are. Let's go forward and see what they're doing. I think they're having a bit of a showdown with these elephants, but luckily the vehicle in front has not spotted the lions and have continued on their way. But we've got this female now off to the side of us here. She may be stood up because of the elephants, but let me just try and get a nice view of her. And there are the little cubbies there as well. I can see them, and they're right in the same place that we left them yesterday. So let me just move forward. I don't think that they'll be too worried about these elephants because they're on the other side of the lugger. This is the exact spot I saw them this morning and where we left them yesterday, so they haven't moved at all. There's a little cubby. Hello, lions. There we go. Adrian, I think you might be able to go in on that. Little cubby looking towards us. There we go. So we've managed to find them. Fantastic. I'm very happy about that. I like it when I go out with a mission and it is accomplished. And there we go. So it seems Scott's got some, or a cub with the lioness. Well, at least we've been able to find some cubbies as well. Looks like Mommy's just laid down again now. And if these guys weren't putting their heads up and looking towards us, we wouldn't be able to see them at all. I think they might have been disturbed. That's why they stood up, because the vehicle in front would have been able to see them, surely. But lucky for us, I spotted them from a way off. And now we can sit and see what these little cubbies get up to. They're always full of energy, aren't they? Lovely to watch the little guys. And one of them looks like he's irritated with the flies, shaking his head. You can see a little bit of ear flicks going on there. It's nice and breezy, so the flies probably aren't too bad, at least. But there is a lot of elephants in front of us as well. Just that Adrian can give you the picture of what is around. Before we go back to those little cubbies, I'm sure they're not going to be going anywhere. So there's lots of them all moving through. And that's maybe why that female maybe stood up. Maybe there was a bit of a trumpet or something from these elephants. But those little cubbies are moving around now. I wonder what they're up to. And there we go, going in back on them. So there was a leg of a female. Not sure what she's up to. Look, maybe probably rolling onto her side so that the little cubbies can have a drink. Juliet, you want to know if a male lion can identify his own cubs? Yes, he can, Juliet. It's a lot down to the smell and the sight of them, and the noise that they make. Obviously not quite as well as the females, but he'll know that he's sired some youngsters, and so he obviously will allow them to jump on him and play a little bit, and they are very tolerant of their own cubs. And every now and then we're seeing just a little bit of white. There's another movement of one again. Unfortunately, I can't go any closer than this, everybody, because we've got a very deep lugger between us and them, and we're not going to be able to go through there. That's a bridge too far for me. I know I definitely would get stuck in this lugger, and I don't know if I would get out. So yes, I'm not scared of getting stuck, everyone, but I think I would be walking home from there. So we're going to stay here for a little while longer and see what these cubs get up to. But speaking of lions and their cubbies, Scott's still with the lion and the cub. Let's head on over to him.
So things have stabilized here, and as you can see, this lucky little cublet is having a milkshake. Interesting that it's still wanting to drink. Maybe it's because it's thirsty, I don't know. But its belly was so full a few moments ago that... Oh, bless you, Mom. That I'm quite surprised that she's suckling. So a couple of surprises from these lions today, moving around in the heat of the day, as well as the fact that this cub was interested in trying to suckle. It looks like it's trying to possibly work another nipple now. Thankfully, it's got no competition from any other little cublets. Nina, you'd like to know how long will a lioness produce milk for after she has given birth? And usually for about kind of 6 months is the average age, but it can be a little bit longer than that they will provide the cubs with milk. It all kind of depends on the individual, just like us as humans. Sorry, not Nina, Dina. Whoops. And yeah, so anywhere between 6 and 9 months at the latest will be the kind of lactation period of a lioness. Thankfully for her, though, like I said, she's only got this one cub to look after now. They can have as many as 4 cubs to deal with, which obviously puts a lot more strain on the mother's responsibilities and requirements. I'm not too sure what happened to the other cubs. None of us are really. We haven't been seeing too much of this pride over the last month and a half or so that I've been back in town. You still thirsty, youngster? Well, you better hope Mom doesn't take you walking after you've eaten all this food and drunk all this milk, because then you're really going to battle with your little belly dragging along the grass. Now, I'm not too sure if this little cub has any sicknesses of sorts, or if it's just been battling to compete with any of the other cubs, but it's definitely, especially a couple of days ago, it wasn't really looking in good shape, but it has already taken a turn for the better after being able to cash in on a good meal in the form of that zebra that you've seen with, well, the remains of, that the hyenas are busy chewing on with Steve. Wonderful stuff. Viam and I were just discussing who is going to go and look for Tundi this afternoon, so we need to have a chat with Steve and see if he's going to possibly leave those hyenas. Speaking of Steve, he's still with them, so why don't you get a quick update on what's happening over there.
And welcome back from potential rain in the Maasai Mara. We have a very nice sunny day here, and the hyenas are all over the place, folks. We are not sure what is going on. I have a really strong feeling that Amber Eyes is somewhere in the bushes here, because the wind has picked up and these hyenas keep getting spooked. They're running left, they're running right. This one ran to the dam. We're really not sure what's going on. And there is a hooded vulture as well, having a little drink. Isn't that a pretty bird? Perfectly specialized for what it does. Head deep in the carcasses of dead animals. Having feathers on the head would be a disadvantage. But see, the hyenas of the other three are somewhere in the bushes on that side. Not sure what they are doing, but I have a feeling that Amber Eyes is somewhere nearby. I believe she was seen on the dam cam about an hour and a half ago. But we have Rexon from Juma. Here's the vehicle down there having a look, see if he can see anything. At the moment he hasn't communicated anything, but he has just arrived. But it's lovely to spend some time with these hyenas and see what it is that they're getting up to. Can you see how interested it is all the time? Very interested. Remember, their noses are so powerful. They can pick up the smell of, we don't even know, of a huge amount of things in all different sort of forms. And it probably can smell that lion somewhere, and it gets a bit of a spook. And I was just having a look at Amber Eyes last night and commenting on what a huge animal that is. Such a huge animal. Definitely not a lioness I'd like to mess with, and I think these hyenas have learnt that too. While we were waiting for you all to come back, one of the hyenas had a bit of a bloody wound on its right back hip. Whether that was from a hyena bite or from competition with the lionesses, we're not sure. Didn't look too serious though. These animals have got very, very good healing properties when it comes to injuries. It's broken legs and things that are the problem, but wounds on the skin generally are sorted out pretty quickly. And you can see how that vulture is not at all concerned with the hyena. And another mud wallower. For Ralph, he loves his mud wallowers and his hyenas, and here we have a hyena loving the coolness of the water. Really messing it up for anybody who wants to drink that, because that is going to be revolting afterwards. Do you not agree? So from these spotted animals here in the Sabi Sands, we're going to stay with them for a little bit longer. Seb's going to get his drone out in a moment and see if we can get an aerial visual. And while we do that, we're going to be going back up to Ralph, who has got his lions.
Thanks, Steve. And yes, the little cubbies are playing now. So I just repositioned to see if we can get a better view on them. There you can see them. There's a bit of rough and tumble going on in the grass, but sometimes they do disappear. And we're just seeing the tops of them. The grass is rather long here, but luckily we're really lucky that we've spotted these lions from a distance, because that female who's just off on the right there, I think you can see her ear, she just stood up. So that was very lucky. But like I said yesterday, the more you practice, the luckier you get. Cenac, you wondering if a bird of prey would be able to snatch up a cub? Yes, Cenac, it is possible, especially when the adults or the lionesses leave the little youngsters in a den site or in a particular area, and then they go off in search of food, or they go hunting. Sometimes they also just go off and wait in anticipation of a hunt. You could have black eagle or the Verreaux's eagle or the crowned eagle coming down and taking a little cub quite easily. I mean, they are capable of taking monkeys, they're capable of taking impala, and obviously the mongoose, like we saw a bit earlier. So a little cub like that is actually very easily become prey to one of the larger of the birds of prey. I mean, I know that even crowned eagles have been known to take little children in the past, so it's definitely possible. So the female looks like she's lying now on her back, and I'm pretty sure that one or two of those tiny little cubs are probably having a drink. And there we see another female rolling over. So we're getting to see nice little glimpses of them, which is always very nice. It's a little bit unfortunate that the grass is so long here, but we've just got to be patient, and you do start to see them playing around and jumping in the long grass there. Lots of tail flicks, so lots of fun happening there, I think. So yesterday, if you guys didn't, or if you weren't on the sunset safari yesterday with us, we followed these two females, and they've got, it seems to be 4 cubs that are around 2 or 3 months old, and then they've got 4 cubs which are very young. So yesterday it looked like they wanted to hunt, and it seemed like they left the cubs and they walked on as if they were going to hunt, but there were 3 of the tiny little cubs that were very naughty and continued on following the females, and this is where we left them yesterday, and they're still here. But that's it. Look at them playing. From one group of lions to another, let's send you on over to Brent, and hopefully he's got a better view than we do.
Well, thanks to Jamie for letting us know where the Olololo and Gama Pride were. And it seems like they caught a warthog during the day today. But with this many lions, there's not much left on that warthog, and there's quite a lot of hungry lions about. Looks like a big male warthog, so a decent meal if there's a few of you. And just to let you know, David, the dish east door, is now coming across my comms, trying to talk to Rebecca, so I think he's picked up the wrong radio. So there we go, not much left on that warthog, but there's still a lot of hungry lions left. So I think they weren't here when we came down the hill, so they must have caught it while we were searching for the musketeers, and when Jamie went to pick up Graham on the way back, she spotted them here. Now there are, if I remember correctly, 12 cubs in this pride. So if you have a look at the cubs, some of them are getting up, some of them don't have full bellies, some of them have overly full bellies, but none of the lionesses are sated. So there's a very good chance, with a storm coming and the wind picking up, that they're going to be on the hunt again. Now remember, this is coming to you 100% live from the Maasai Mara in Kenya. We are in the Mara Triangle, and we're with one of the largest prides in the Northern Triangle, enjoying a bit of pork for the evening. As I said, it's not nearly enough to keep them well fed, and they're certainly going to be hunting again tonight as it gets darker. Oh, let's go across to the right a little bit. There's a lovely little greeting ceremony going on. Look at that. And you can see how strong the wind is with the grass moving there. Oh, it's creating some excellent visuals. Hopefully you guys will be able to get some nice screenshots. Remember to share your screenshots with the hashtag Safari Live. There we go. Well, it could be a little bit of a... No, not just yet. I thought there might be a little... Yes, there's an argument about to happen. So one of the cubs is lying on what's left of the carcass, and one of the adult females is trying to get a little bit of the meat. And look at that cub's ears. Look how flat they are. Every time... Let's see if she tries to sneak a little bit of meat. That's definitely a young boy. Look at his tail swishing. He is upset. Don't come near my meat, Mom or Auntie. Anyway, you can see the lionesses are not full at all as they walk around trying to get some little pieces of the carcass, but the cubs are not sharing today. Now, at this time of the year, it's always quite tough for the lion prides, as the migration is not here, the easy days are over, and they mostly live off warthog at this time of the year. There we go, giving up on trying to get any of the meat. Means the ladies are going to have to work hard again this evening. Now remember, if you have any questions for us, hashtag Safari Live on whatever platform you're watching. It's amazing that we've followed these cubs now for nearly a year, and some of them were tiny tots in June, and literally we found them when they were weeks old, and now look at them. There's not one tiny tot left amongst us. They're a marauding horde of teenagers. Isn't that a scary thought? And those poor females having to deal with stroppy teenagers who won't share any meat. Now, of course, the lionesses will prioritize the cubs getting fed before themselves. To a degree. If it does become very, very prominent that the females need food, they will eat first, because if they don't eat and they are not able to provide food for the rest of the pride, the whole pride will expire. There are a lot of warthogs in this area. Now we're going to send you to some different lions all the way back in South Africa, and unlike the spotted lions, those lions like to hunt buffalo.
Well, we are certainly being very spoilt with lions this afternoon, Ralph, Brent and I. So what VM and I are thinking is that we're probably going to mix things up and go and search for Tundi, who is a leopardess who has a tiny little furball cub at the moment. And I think that the likelihood of her and that cub showing us a good time is probably a little bit better than this lioness and this cub. Not to say we're going to have any luck with Tundi and we may just come straight back to this lioness. We'll just see how thing goes. But VM's quite confident that Tundi's still going to be in the area where she's been camping out with the cub. He was filming her yesterday evening and seems to think that there might still be, or at least she might still be quite full from the warthog that she hadn't finished feeding on yesterday evening. So maybe she finished it this morning, relaxed with the cub for today, and may take us hunting with her this evening. As you can see, this cub continues to suckle, and I'm blown away by it. I'm also blown away by the fact that Mom's allowing it to continue to suckle, because it's full-bellied and it's already been suckling for quite a while this afternoon. Ravinda, you'd like to know, why do lions not have spots like leopards? Well, interestingly, they do actually have rosettes. They're just very difficult to see. You can see a few very faint spots there. When cubs are very young, they are definitely more prominent, the kind of spots on their coats, and as they become older, they have they tend to fade. And I guess that's because lions probably have evolved to not require as intricate a camouflage as the
cheetah and the leopard, possibly because of the fact that they hunt in groups, which allows them to ambush their prey with a bit of help, not alone, like cheetah and leopard are very often. But that doesn't have spots. And if you think of most of the big cats throughout the world, a lot of them are spotted, especially all the different species of leopards. I mean, tigers aren't spotted, but they've got their own very intricate markings and camouflage. But again, I mean, lions are one of the only social cats on the planet. I guess mountain lions aren't, and they have a very similar looking coat. One kind of set color throughout, so it's not only the lions of Africa, but also the mountain lions of America that look quite similar. Not the best camouflage. Alrighty, well, I think we're going to leave these guys be. They won't be too difficult to find if we do want to come back a little bit later. And I think there's a strong chance that they're probably going to head towards the Vulture Dam a little bit later, where Steve thinks Amber Eyes is kind of hiding out in the bushes, and it would make sense that Amber Eyes is somewhere there nearby after quenching her thirst and being very, very full-bellied. Tom, you would like to know what would happen if Tundi's cub and this little lion cub came across one another. Well, if their parents weren't around, it would be very, very interesting. Who knows, maybe they would even play with one another. It's fair to say that Tundi's cub is a lot smaller, and it would be kind of, it may get bullied by this older cub. I'm not too sure. It's something that probably never really happens in nature, because a little lion cub won't move on its own, nor will a small leopard cub. They'll only move with their parents around, and if they do bump into any of the, the opposite species, their mothers will probably try and fight with one another, create a decoy while the cubs scatter. But, hypothetically speaking, if we were to just plonk them together, it would be very interesting to see what happens. Wonderful stuff. Well, I'm not too sure. Maybe Brent will have some more insight as to what would happen between a lion cub and a leopard cub meeting up out in the bush, because you're going up to him now in Kenya. You can ask him for his thoughts.
Oh dear, I think it would be very bad for the leopard cub, and because even at a young age the lion cubs are much bigger, and they would kill the leopard cub, unfortunately. And that is the nature of the beast, or the beasties, as you would like. But I think the leopard cub would try escape as much as possible, probably head for a tree. And we've seen leopard cubs do that from hyenas, from wild dogs, from lions, adult lions. But I think the cubs, if without adults, the lion cubs, especially a group of lion cubs, would try to kill the leopard cub. And I think the leopard cub would look for the safety of the trees. So they are able to perform incredible feats of agility to get up trees in danger, even at a young age. Let's move forward a little bit, see if we can see a bit more of what's happening behind those bushes. So Ian is wondering, how far is it typically between lion prides in the Mara? Now, Ian, it depends very much about what part of the Mara you're in. The lion prides here, their territories and home ranges are much, much smaller than the territories of the lions in the Sabi Sands. So, let's take the Nkahuma pride, who Scott was with a little bit earlier. They probably have about 8,000 to 9,000 hectares that they range over, and they have very definite dry season and wet season ranges. Whereas the lions here in the Mara very much stick to the same area throughout the year. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to see too much more from here. Just lots of heads in the grass. And there we go. You can see the warden from the Mara Triangle there to make sure people don't misbehave, drive too close. or not that too many vehicles come to the lions. So here, the Olololo and Gama Pride probably never extends pretty much further than about 4,000 hectares. So about half the size of the Nkuhuma's territory, but bordering on them, you've got the small sausages or the Owinyo Pride, you've got the marsh breakaways, you've got the Mara River Pride. So the density of lions is a lot higher here in the Maasai Mara than it is in the Sabi Sands or the Greater Kruger, for example. Now, parts of the Greater Kruger have a much higher density. If you look onto the basalt plains to the east of the Kruger, on the edge of the Lubombo Mountains, there the lion prides are far closer together. It all depends on the area. So there's no one sort of rule. It all just depends on where they are. So if you head further south from here, towards the big sausage pride, they've got a much bigger territory than the small sausage or the Angamas, but also there's a lot wider area there between the escarpment and the river. So if you go from big sausage territory, you go into Serena Pride, Egyptian Goose, Border Pride, and the Ngarare Pride. So there's a lot more space there, therefore the lion territory is a little bit more spread out. But there is definitely a far higher density of lions here in the Mara than there is in the Greater Kruger. Now, one must remember that the Mara National Reserve is about 150,000 hectares, so just over 300,000 acres, plus the conservancies are about 200,000 hectares, so 400 and something thousand acres. And if you take the Greater Kruger, you're looking at about a 2.7 million hectare, so close on 5 million acres, actually over 5 million acres, and it's far drier, so there's a lot less density of prey species, therefore they have far bigger home ranges. And the lions that live in the driest areas have the bigger home ranges. The lions that live along the rivers and in the wetter areas have smaller home ranges. So it all depends on what area the lions are living in. So it looks like there's some lions there supplementing their warthog with a bit of milk. Now, lion cubs will nurse till about 6 months old, and about 6 months old they also lose their milk teeth. And I think those guys are getting pretty close to getting a smack from mom for drinking. It looks like there are two little boys. And, well, we're going to sit here for a little bit longer. There's a possibility the hyenas will come in. There is a possibility the hyenas will come in. There's a den not too far from here. But there is a possibility that the females might get up and try and catch something else before it gets too dark. But let's go see where Rolf is since he's left his lions.
Thanks, Brent. And yes, I did leave those lions because they made their way a little bit into the grass, and so in the end it was almost impossible to see them. So I thought we would carry on a little bit because everybody seems to have found quite a number of lions today, so we've got ample opportunity to see them, and I thought maybe we'll come and see what else we can find. Now, this storm just off to our right, which I do want to let you just have a look from here, is fast approaching, and it looks like quite a big one. And speaking of storms, it seems the school group is not going to be joining us anymore because they're all snowed in. So good luck to everybody there. Please keep safe, and unfortunately they won't be joining us, but you guys stay safe, and we'll see you when it's not so snowed in. Lucky for us, this is just a bit of rain, so we're not going to be getting any snow with it. But it does make our roads pretty sloppy and slushy, almost like when you've got a bit of that sort of slushy snow on the road. So quite similar, you slide around almost exactly the same as snow. I've got experience with both, and the substrate is almost identical when you've got that hard substrate underneath and that slushy mud on top. So nice to think about that. So everybody, I'm going to continue on, see if we can find any black rhino in the area. But while I'm doing that, let's send you on over to my good friend Herbie, who's in South Africa and he's on foot.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Herbert Koza, and with me is David. And we are out this afternoon, moving to the west of the property. We came across one of the trees, the very common trees in this area, the black monkey orange. This is one of the favorite tree for the locals, especially the Shangans. They got lots of products that they get from this particular tree. They've got medicine to use from this tree. If there's a baby in the family with a birthmark, they will dig up the roots of the tree, boil them, and give it to the baby 3 times a day, like they do with tablets. And also, they will use the very same root by putting them in fire, crushing them into powder, apply on the side of the bite, and it does work. I know they've done that with me, and with berries, they are greenish and they get yellowish when they're ready. So, unfortunately, in this case, we don't have the berries. We do compete with monkeys. There's lots of different species that will go for the berries. I know baboons do, humans do. I've tested them before. They taste very nice. It's either you go for the berries while they're still very fresh from the tree, or you sun dry them, crush into powder, add some sugar as well, and enjoy. They taste very good. And over here, we have got a katydid that is using these as a home. Very, very well camouflaged. It's using the tree as a home, and you can't tell the difference between the leaves of the tree and the insect. So it's not just this insect, there's lots of insects, more especially the green ones that will use this very well camouflaged tree as just to confuse their predators. So while still enjoying our katydid, we're gonna send you over to Steph.
Thanks, Herbie. Wonderful tree knowledge coming through there. I'm sure the viewers are absolutely loving it. Folks, we have found the most colourful and glamorous bird of the savannah. I'm sure you have all seen it before, but for those of you who have not, this is the national bird of Botswana. It is the lilac-breasted roller. Isn't that just the most beautiful bird you've seen? The colours are absolutely bizarre. It almost looks like someone has taken a black and white colour in drawing and given it to a child and given the child the option of colouring in whatever it would like to, and that is the result. Because there is just absolutely bizarre colours on this bird. Beautiful, beautiful colours. But what is amazing, I always find, is that none of those colours are in fact pigments. They're not pigments. That is carotenoids and melanin combined with a process known as Tyndall scattering, which is basically air bubbles within the feather that reflect and refract the light in different directions with the carotenoids, and that's what gives the bird these beautiful, beautiful colors. He's playing very nicely for us. It's the #1 photographed bird in the Kruger National Park because it is beautiful, and it is the middle of the breeding season, so he is looking a little bit scruffy because he's she defending the territory. Foxy, indeed, it is a foxy looking bird. Foxy, thank you for that. And so the lilac-breasted rollers, with a number of other species, they are breeding this time of year, but these individuals, they like to breed in cavities in trees, and they've got a very interesting display that they use where they get their roller name from, which I can demonstrate for you in a moment. But they need the cavities created by woodpeckers. Geocomo, you've never heard of this bird before? Lilac-breasted roller, it is an absolute beauty. But when you come with beauty and looks, you don't come with the beautiful voice, and the roller has got a horrible voice, because you can't be blessed with both. You either are a singer or a looker in the bird kingdom. And this is definitely a looker. And a very, very ugly sound. Maybe I'll play it for you. If I just turn around for you there, show you on my lovely app. Okay. I believe, while I look for this call, Mr. Dyson is having lots of luck with the cats today. I believe he's found that beautiful leopardess with the bundle of joy.
We certainly have, and this is the little bundle of joy. It looks like it is, not too sure if it's playful or it's definitely been kind of on the move. And as we arrived onto the scene, Tundi also moved ever so slightly, 20 meters or so, into the shady spot where she's lying now, and it looks like the cub is heading back towards her. So will she try and pounce on Mum and have some playtime? Let's see. She loves kind of sneaking up on Mum. And I can't believe how lucky we've been over the last few days. Literally sightings of this leopardess and her cub, I think, every single day for the last 4 days. And our luck continues. Now, as you can see, Mom doesn't look too happy. I'm not too sure why. There's another vehicle in the sighting, and that's who she's growling at. But I'm sure what will happen is that vehicle will probably just retreat a little bit, give her a little bit more space, and then that way she will feel less likely to want to growl and snarl. It's funny, you know, some days she's completely relaxed and doesn't hiss and snarl, and others she acts a little bit temperamental. So I guess just like us as humans, you know, some days we're in a good mood, some days less so, and it's the same for wild animals. They too are allowed to have mood swings. Now, I haven't seen this cub trying to hunt or stalk or pounce on anything other than its mother. And with the amount of time that we're spending it, I think we definitely are going to start getting lucky seeing it trying to catch small lizards, grasshoppers. When it gets a little bit older, tree squirrels are a favorite for young leopards to try and catch. Not an easy prey item, but certainly a good challenge to allow them to practice and hone their skills. Now, there was a small warthog kill in this area yesterday, and cubby got a little bit of a fright, not too sure from what. But there was a warthog kill in this area, and there's a chance that it's been finished, and Tundi is just full enough not to warrant going off on her next hunt. Kathy, well, you've mentioned that we're making it hard for you not to become very attached to this young little cub. Well, I think for anybody involved in Safari Live, it would be a very, very difficult thing not to become attached to something so cute. And I guess, yes, the fact that we have been lucky enough to spend so much time with it over the last few days especially, and also a few weeks, makes us all kind of in that same dangerous boat of attachment. Now, for any of you who may be watching for the first time, it's important to realize that this little cub is still very, very vulnerable, and there's still a fairly decent chance that it will not make it to adulthood, and that is one of the catches with becoming attached with these wild animals, especially the cubs. Very good. We are going to stay put and be sure to call you back if anything else exciting happens, but it sounds like up in Kenya, Brent's lions are on the move.
Well, here's one of the fat little boys who managed to get the majority of that warthog. And another lioness just came in, so he decided to go walk up to her and decided, you know what, I'm too fat, I'm too tired, I'm too lazy, I'm just going to plonk right next to the car here and have a little cough. Yes, you ate too much too quickly. So there are 9 males out of the cubs here. So one day they could form a super coalition if they do leave. But yeah, so 9 young males for these poor 4 females to keep feeding. There's that missing lioness. She's popped in on the other side. Now, oh, look at the greeting. Saying hello. Now, Lily is wondering what happens when lion prides meet are they friends? Oh, shame, she's got the tiniest little bit of warthog leg left. Lily, unfortunately not. Sometimes they could be friends if they come from the same natal pride, which means they might have once been the same pride, but they've split because there are too many of them, that there's too many mouths to feed. But normally when lion prides meet, they will fight each other. They don't want other lions in their area. Craig, this little guy seems like he's listening to every single word I say. Well, until the car started, but he was looking straight at me. Yeah, you. Yes, you. No, he's been distracted by that, and he's back looking at us. He literally sounds like he's listening to every word. There's a car moving just behind us, distracted him. But he is very much focused on me. So, there he is. Hey, mister. So he is one of the ones that has done quite well. Now, of course, as male lions get older, the hierarchy in coalitions is always something that's very interesting because it is quite fluid. It changes from time to time, depending on who's the most fat, who's the most sore, and who's the most aggressive. So often, not even the biggest lion can be the most dominant just by having the biggest attitude. And this little guy definitely has an attitude. So are you a future king of the Mara, mister? Possibly. He could also be a future king of the Serengeti if he is pushed far enough when he comes into adulthood and has to leave his natal pride. I always find it incredible how tolerant the animals are of flies. I mean, look at that. There's a fly almost in his eye. Oh, look at that. I would not be able to stand it. Now, fortunately, Scott has got something incredible. As I said, he's decided he doesn't like me. So, as I said, little cubs, what would happen, lion and leopard to meet, the little leopard cub would go up into the tree, and that's what Scott's got.
Well, here, watch as Vim zooms out. You'll see how high up the scraggly little combretum tree this little leopard cub has managed to scurry up. It may look a little bit exaggerated now because it is growing up from the kind of base of the river bank there. But how cool is this? And such a good sign that it's happy to climb fairly high and capable of climbing fairly high already because of the fact that Mom is bringing kills back to her. It means that it is imperative that she can escape up into the safety of even small trees like this. Will be very, very difficult for hyena and lion to get to her. So, not only a beautiful scene, but also a very, very useful one, considering the fact that she does need to be cautious and capable of escaping, which this is a very good example of her being able to do just that. Hello, Mr. Q. You would like to know how big is this cub in terms of weight? Well, I would guess 2 kilograms, maybe a tiny bit more than that. 4 pounds, 5 pounds. I've never weighed a baby leopard cub, so I'm just trying to kind of compare it to a baby human, which are usually born at around 3 kgs. And I think this looks fairly similar size to a newborn baby human. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe I've chosen the wrong kind of animal to compare it to. Maybe a domestic cat. How much does your average domestic cat weigh, I wonder? 4 kilos? This wouldn't be... Well, VM's cat weighs 4.5 kilos, thanks VM. And would you say this is half the size? 60 the size. It comes well done, VM. How quick did it get down that tree and start heading back to Mom? And it looks like she's doing her best to sneak up on Mom through the long grass. Now, watch how carefully she's placing her paws down, trying not to make a noise. You sneaky little thing. Now, sadly, when we reposition to get into a good spot to see her up the tree, we kind of forwent the opportunity to see Mom. So, no, we still got a gap there, so that's okay. Let's not risk moving.
And I just want to see... Actually, let's move quickly because I've got a feeling this little cub's going to pounce on Mom. There we go. So the cub's just behind Mom. Mom hasn't looked in a direction that I'm aware of yet. So be ready for that little cub to come charging. Oh, Mom's detected you. I wonder... Oh, it did a little half-hearted pounce there. But I guess the fact that it had been detected deterred it from pursuing a full attack. Oh, she's seen that tail twitching. Is she going to go for it? Sometimes she gets into very, very playful moods. The most playful I've ever seen her was yesterday morning. It was so, so cool. But I guess it requires Mom to be willing to play. Cute. Because sometimes Mom won't be in a playful mood. And how absolutely cute is this? Yes, Mary, this little cub is certainly a little ball of energy, and it looks like it's now spending some time grooming its mother, and it's already learnt the ways of the wild with regards to that. It seems like it may even be trying to pluck off little ticks, and I'd be very impressed that if it's already learnt that skill at such a young age. Hello, you little cutie. So Mom's still a little bit snarly this afternoon. I'm not too sure why. Maybe it's the hot weather. Now, will she tolerate the little cublet having a nurse, or is the cub not too interested in it? Didn't seem like it for now. Very good. Well, seeing as though the little cub has disappeared away from Mom for the time being, we're going to send you back up to the Maasai Mara to watch the approaching storm with Ralph.
Thanks, Scott. And yes, it's very ominous, everybody. Have a look at this. This storm is very quickly approaching, and it looks like quite a big one, quite like last night. But it's already raining where we were a little bit earlier, and I think it's already now where those lions were. A lovely termite mound in the foreground there as Adrian pans across. I can hear some greater honey guides calling just behind me in that forested area. They do that Victor, Victor, Victor. And we might still get a little bit of a sunset. There's some colors there over the Olololo escarpment, but there's not too much as these clouds are really closing in now. The wind is picking up, and I think it's not very long and we're going to be getting wet. But a good thing for us, we'll probably be up at camp battening down the hatches once more and staying dry with a lovely nice hot drink. It seems it's been doing this every afternoon, or more or less, since I've been here. Top Mod, you want to know if we have a problem with so much rain? Top Mod, not particularly, no. Just as far as I've been able to gather, it's supposed to be quite dry at this time of year. So a little bit of unseasonal rain, because normally very dry at this period, and in a couple of months' time, then the big rains really kick in. But it seems that the small rains have just continued, and so we might just go from small rains into big rains without that sort of dry patch in between. But that's the wonders of the world and climate and weather. It's not as stable as we would like it to be, but that's nothing we can do about that. So we just marvel at the wonders of the rain approaching over the plains with the Balanites tree making for a wonderful scene. But you just think for the animals now, the elephants probably don't mind at all, but animals like those lions, shame. So everyone, that's it for us here in the Mara. We'll see you all again tomorrow, but in the meantime, let's send you on back down to South Africa, and Steve, I'm sure, has got something wonderful to show you.
Thank you, Ralph, and all of those in the Mara. Hopefully there's not any rain pulling into